Hi kids, welcome to Summer Sunday School. Today we're going to be learning about the last meal that Jesus had with his disciples. We call it the Last Supper or Holy Communion. Jesus and the disciples were eating the Passover meal. That's that special celebration that the Jews have when they remember how the angel of death passed over their homes when they were living in Egypt so that they could become free and could leave the land. In the same way, because of what Jesus did when he died on the cross, we pass over from death to life to live with God forever. And Jesus wanted his disciples to eat this special meal together until we join him again in heaven. Watch this story. All over Jerusalem, people were getting ready for a special Jewish holiday, the Passover feast. It was a meal that reminded them of the time when God rescued their people from slavery in Egypt. It's called Passover because they remembered how the angel of death passed over their ancestors' houses. "Where do you want us to get ready for the Passover?" the disciples asked Jesus. "Go into the city," he replied, "and you will see a man carrying a pitcher of water. Follow him. When he goes into a home, find the owner of that house. Tell him the teacher said to ask, 'Where is the room I may use to eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a big upstairs room ready for our use. Get everything together there." The disciples went and did just as Jesus said. When it was evening, the Lord and his 12 disciples went to that house. He knew this was their last evening together before his death. He had many things to tell them. Jesus got up from the table, took off his outer clothing, wrapped a towel around his waist. He poured water into a bowl and began to wash his disciples' feet. Simon Peter said, "Lord, are you going to wash my feet?" Jesus replied, "You do not realize what I am doing now, but later you will understand." "No," Peter said, "you will never wash my feet." "Unless I wash you," Jesus answered, "you have nothing to do with me." "Then wash my hands and my head too," Simon Peter said. "You are already clean, but not all of you." Then he said, "One of you is going to betray me." Betray in this case meant to turn Jesus over to his enemies. The disciples stopped eating. They were very upset. How could any of them give him over to his enemies? One of them was feeling very uncomfortable. Jesus spoke to Judas. "What you are going to do quickly." Judas left, going out into the night. He was really going out to betray Jesus. The Lord picked up some bread, held it in his hands and prayed, thanking God for it. Then he broke the bread in pieces and passed it around to the disciples. "Take this and eat it. This is my body which is broken for you. Do this in remembrance of me." The broken bread showed what would happen to his body when he died on the cross. Then he took a cup of wine, thanked God for it. He said, "Drink this. This is my blood which was poured out for many." The wine showed how his blood would make the angel of death pass over everyone who trusted in him. Through his death, we have forgiveness of sins. This new Passover meal is called the Lord's Supper, or Holy Communion service. It is a special time for us. The Lord and his disciples sang a hymn together and then went out to the Mount of Olives. They entered the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus told most of the disciples to wait while he went to pray. "I'm full of sorrow and sadness," he told them. Stay here and watch with me." Jesus, the Son of God, was full of fear at the thought of being punished by God for our sin. But he still said, "Father, let it be not what I want, but what you want." Later, a group of men with lanterns, swords, and clubs entered the garden. Judas Iscariot was leading the way. He stepped right up to the Lord Jesus and kissed him. "Judas, are you betraying me with a kiss?" the Lord asked him. He knew Judas' plan. None of the disciples knew what Judas had done, but the Lord did. He sold Jesus to his enemies for 30 pieces of silver. At Asbury, we celebrate Holy Communion on the first Sunday of the month. That's when there is no children's message, and all the kids come downstairs with me to children's church. But upstairs, the teenagers and the adults celebrate Holy Communion. Everyone gets bread, everyone gets wine, and they remember how the Lord gave his body and blood so that we could be his people forever. Now, Jesus said that he would not eat this meal again until we are all together in heaven. So can you imagine? The first meal that we have together in heaven will be eating the Lord's Supper together. I hope you all have a wonderful week.